Hi there, welcome to another episode of RNR Talks. So, today we are going to explore something new, a different profession, and another entrepreneur and also an homemaker. So, I want to introduce you to Bhumika Tehlani Jain, who is a prostodontist, and she's going to let us know all about the tooth replacements, about our queries about root canals, about our queries about how important it is for us to have oral hygiene as well as for our kids to maintain that. So let's hear it from her. Hi, Bhumika.
Hi.
So, I want to start off by asking you that in this completely, vivid generation where there are so many different career opportunities, why did you choose dentistry and then so much deep specialization? And so, what was your basic interest like?
Yeah. So basically, frankly, there is no dentist in my family. But when I was very young, around 6 years old, I used to go to my family dentist. And I was really fascinated with the entire setup and, the receptionist and the doctors walking in and out and appointments and stuff. So I don't know why, in each and every slam book that I have filled in my school career, I have written that I wanted to become a dentist, and my parents knew it that I wanted to do dentistry. So yeah, I think have and I also had braces, for a few years. So I used to keep going for monthly dental appointments. So yeah, I think that whole fascination with it. So yeah.
So, how many years have it has it been in this profession for you?
So it's been around 12 years now.
So 12 years. So how is it like, what's your day-to-day journey like? Like, I actually, my experience with this entire field is that I stepped into a dentist clinic at the age of 30 plus. So, so then, I realized that it's a very, kind of a very difficult space to be in because you have to deal with lot of patient, mostly you have to deal with patient anxieties, and I am like the person in that. So dealing with me is the most difficult thing in. So I want to understand how do you manage all of this with the having a toddler at home and then obviously handling daily routine. So how does it take a toll on your mental health, or how do you manage your mindset while treating patients?
I think going to the clinic is the best part about the day that I have, because my interest and love for dentistry is so much that I really look forward to those few hours in the clinic. So I divide my day in a way that I have to go to the clinic in the morning for my morning appointments, and then I take a little break. I do some, homework. I spend time with my son, and then, evening I have a set of appointments. So I try to divide the day wherein I'm not continuously doing one particular thing, but I'm just dividing my work and also spending time at home and doing some work.
So, as a lame patient, we only understand root canals. That's it. I only understand that, and at thoda bahut I understand that there's some cleaning that has to be done. Most of us, I think, don't even believe कि क्यों जाना है डेंटिस्ट के पास. I mean,
Correct,
ठीक है,
yeah.
हम ब्रश तो करते ही है रोज. But I want to know, like, what is your specialization? How do you, and how different it is, and how important it is for, like, I've had an implant, so I didn't know the importance of an implant. But I think, frankly speaking, the implant is much more. Right now, the implant looks much better than probably the filling or the tooth that has the cap that has been fit. So, but most of us don't know about these techniques and technology. So, as a prosthodontist, what is that? Is your specialization, and what are the new techniques? I mean, which people can benefit from?
Yeah. So a prosthodontist deals with any kind of missing teeth in the mouth. If all your teeth are also missing, we can have a full mouth rehabilitation with dentures, with full mouth implants. If you have a single tooth missing, we can give implants in that single tooth region. Or then anything related to smile designing, like if a patient does not want to get braces and they have just one or two crooked teeth in the front, then we can give a smile designing with giving veneers or crowns. So that's what is my specialty about. And implants are the new trend that are in now. And also there are different newer techniques like scanning that has come in, wherein we used to take traditional impressions before, like if you have to get a cap done, you have to have that mold kind of material in your mouth. But nowadays
Yeah, because a patient like me has, I don't know what you call it, but I have this problem which I can't keep the mold in
yes,
my mouth.
so that is called a gag
Right,
reflex. So,
yeah.
when you place it, some patients want to, like, have a gag and they want to vomit or something. So, nowadays, the newer techniques are that instead of placing that, we do a full mouth scanning.
Okay.
So, you just scan that tooth where you want to put the crown on, and then, you can get your crown ready. So, these are the new things that have come in.
And so I just wanted to know from you. So basically, I have dealt with this. When I was pregnant, I had a gum swelling, and I ignored it in the initial months because I was just going to. I just came to know that I'm expecting. Then somebody gave me an oral application. I put that. That became fine. Post that, in my second trimester, towards the end of the second trimester, the gum swelling returned, and I think it started. The tooth started decaying, and by the end of the pregnancy, wo tooth was breaking. So obviously, I went to the dentist after 3 or 4 months of my baby being born, and they said that we cannot save this teeth, and there's another tooth that. So ultimately, I had four root canals during the pregnancy period, and so the dentist to whom I went, she said that it's very common for. It's a very common thing that basically lot of women they come back to, but then also when I questioned her, she said that it's a very wrong practice to not go to the dentist during your pregnancy period. So if you can detail this out and tell us like how, because there's a lot of myth around antibiotics, there's a lot of myth around treatment, there's a lot of myth around the pain that we go through during root canals. So how can the treatment be done even if you are in a full blown pregnancy, and how important it is to get it treated during your yes, because also I'm asking this question is because my dentist also told me that if I was just lucky enough that I lost my tooth but not my baby, because she said that the infection could have been that bad. So how true is this, and how, what is your take on it?
So what happens basically is that it is very common. Almost 60 to 70% of pregnant women, they go through a gum swelling during pregnancy because your hormonal levels, progesterone, estrogen, they are like fluctuating. And also there is a lot of decay also that develops. So my advice to a lot of pregnant women, that when you are planning a pregnancy, uh, you should go to a dentist before, and it is important to go to a dentist even during your pregnancy. X-rays are quite safe in dentistry. We have such good x-ray machines now that they are quite safe. You don't have to get multiple x-rays, only like of the tooth that is bothering you. And cleaning is very safe during pregnancy, and root canals are quite safe. But of course, when you go in your third trimester, it is very difficult for you to lay down in that position for a longer time.
Right.
So the safest time is that during the second trimester you get it done. And extractions are contraindicated, so you don't want to reach that stage wherein you have to get the tooth extracted. You want to get a filling done, you want to get a root canal done. All these procedures are quite safe when you're pregnant. So, and also one more thing is that the bacteria in your mouth, it can reach your baby. So it is very important to take care. I feel that the gynecologists nowadays, they should have a protocol wherein you should visit your dentist during pregnancy, at least have a checkup.
This is very true because during my pregnancy, I had a checklist in which I was also told to do an eye test, And it was very funny because when I questioned the gynec and I asked her ki why you are telling, so she said, "Oh, because you might deliver naturally." So I said, "Is there any record of anybody going blind during?" She said, "Nobody goes blind when you deliver vaginally, but some people have bleeding from the eye." So I think to dental checkup was the only checkup which was not done during, at least in my experience in my pregnancy. So yeah, definitely I think that should be there. So I wanted to know that the whole concept of this smile thing, which has come from past 10 to 15 years, which has taken quite speed, and especially the newer generation, everyone's running to improve my smile. Or it's not about even braces. I think when we were small it was more about braces, but right now it's more about everyone's going for the smile treatment. So I wanted to know, is it a thing of the trend, or do you suggest as a doctor that this should be a mandate probably every 5 years or 10 years to go and check the alignment of your teeth, or get a treatment done, irrespective of the fact that you have a root canal or you have a decay?
So basically, what we suggest is that you should visit your orthodontist, that is the braces doctor, because sometimes some children who are in their growing stage, they don't have proper growth. So the doctor has to assess that and make sure that the growth is proper. If you're talking about smile, if an tooth is overlapped or that part, then that probably is if someone doesn't like the smile, one tooth is overlapping. So everybody says that having straight teeth, so nowadays it is come up because except for braces we have other treatments like veneers, which can, then we have these invisible braces which is called as getting your aligners, wherein you don't have to put the braces, but with that tray you can it is invisible. So all these newer technologies are coming, so people want to have straighter teeth. Then we have teeth whitening also. So it's all about having bright teeth, but I think the functionality is more important to check whether your bite is proper, you're not having any jaw pain. So apart from just the smiling part, you have to have a checkup for the growth and the functionality of your jaws. So I think once in a year, it's good to visit your dentist to just have a checkup, because you anyways be going for your cleaning sessions, because we recommend that you go every year, 6 months to a year.
How
So
important is oral hygiene for overall organal health? I mean, your overall health. Like I've heard a lot of dentists talking and saying ki uh, bad oral hygiene is reflects into a kidney disorder or reflects into liver problems.
yeah.
So how true, or how true is it?
So it is the mouth is definitely related to the heart. And also when a patient has diabetes also, that patient has a lot of dental issues. So I think it is very important that patients understand that it's just not your health of the body, but also the mouth is a part of your body, which people don't understand. They just feel that if we have pain in the mouth, then only we will go to the dentist. But the kind of bacteria that are present in your mouth, it can affect a lot of other organs in your body, especially the heart. And especially diabetic patients should take care, because the healing process becomes very slow in diabetic patients. So all of this is correlated. So I think more importantly, it is if you go for your normal checkup, and the dental checkup also should be a part of that.
Are implants are recommended for diabetics? Can they, because there is this myth that I was reading somewhere which says that mostly implants fail for diabetic patients. uh, so, and also how do they fail? I mean, I don't understand, because I've gone through the procedure, so I understand that with great care an implant is fit into your gum for, and then it's kept for around 3.5 4 months, and then you are put, the cap is fit and all. So how does a patient come to know that it has failed? What's the reason? And is like a lot of people, they scare you if you are if you have diabetics, saying ki implant is not for you, you'll have to go in for a denture.
So, it is true that the healing process in diabetics is little bit slow. So, anytime we want to plan an implant, we always make sure that we inform the patient that it could fail because, see, like I told you, like the mouth of a diabetic patient is very different compared to a non-diabetic patient. So maybe the body accepts the implant or it doesn't accept the implant. But yeah, if you have controlled diabetes and we like do your surgery, there are times that the implant is good, but you can't really predict what can happen. Oral hygiene is also one of the most important things which can keep an implant stable in your mouth. But if you don't have good oral hygiene, if your diabetes is not in control, all of these things can have failed implants also.
So implants failed even after the cap and all is being done, and then you again have a
Yes, there are a lot of patients who don't have stability after the cap placement, also. It becomes loose, it comes out. So, it all depends on the bone density and the kind of bone the patient has, and also the oral hygiene after the placement of the implant and the crown.
So you have 12 years of experience. So since we had already talking about diabetic patients, so are you more often visited by people who are diabetic, or are you? What's the kind of frequency of more people being? For I'm talking about kind of treatments for more decay or root canals. Is it kids, like in your experience? Is it kids, or is it more diabetic patients, or is it more senior citizen?
Yeah, I mean, mix of patients. There are a lot of like middle-aged kids also who come and they have decay in their mouth. They don't want to come unless and until they have pain. But we don't want to do a root canal for you. We want to do a cleaning for you. We want to do a filling for you. We want to save your teeth. But that's the problem with this generation, or probably everyone. Like, there is no education wherein, or maybe because it's not included in the insurance, that's why they don't want to come and visit unless you have pain. But you have pain, that means that it has reached your nerve. So we have to recommend a root
Right,
canal. But
right.
if you regularly are going for your checkups, 6 monthly, one every year, then we can like help you to save your teeth. But that's what happens, that people just don't want to turn up. And I think kids also, I have seen few kids who like need a lot of root canals and stuff. So that depends on like the kind of food they have, and whether they are brushing their teeth well, and if the parents are taking in like initiative or no
Right.
to keep the oral health good. So yeah, I mean, all kinds of patients come, but yeah, old patients do come with missing teeth, which have not been replaced for years.
Right.
Now they want to put dentures or they want to put implants. So
So let's going to our next segment, which is I put this segment looking at your some pictures on your Instagram, which look that you are kind of fond of kids, and probably they keep visiting your clinic and all. So I understand that you are a prosthodontist, and probably you have an interest towards kids and all. So can you tell us more about understanding about kids hygiene? A very common question as a mother we have is that what is the correct age when we start brushing? So I have a very fond friend whose baby is just equivalent, they are both of the same age. So I started off with my son brushing and all at an age of, I probably 1.5 of an earlier, I think. So we just had a conversation, and she asked me, "Arey, when did you start brushing?" I said, quite early. It's been almost 1 year or 6 months. So that's a very common question where we don't know when do we start oral hygiene. Then what kind of toothpaste, is it safe for the kids or not? And then there are a lot of other questions. So my also question is that like same conversation which I had with my friend, in which a lot of people use like they use the kadwa tel, and they use a lot of other things. They say कि ये पुराने traditional methods है. So as a dentist, would you recommend that, or uh, how should we begin with oral hygiene for kids?
So basically, ideally, oral hygiene starts as soon as the kid comes into your life. Like, even when the kid is just having breast milk, you have to make sure that you are taking a damp cloth and, a wet muslin cloth, and just like, around the gums and the tongue, and then slowly you take a finger brush and then you use that. Then when you see a small little tooth coming, then you use a like, kid tooth brush. And post when the child turns 1 year, you can start using a toothpaste for the child, like a fluoridated toothpaste. And nowadays we have fluoridated toothpaste that have, like, less than 1,000 fluoride in them. So a lot of everything is available in the market, like, fluoridated toothpaste is a must. And I think, yeah, since the day one your child comes into your life, you have to, like, clean, like how you take a bath every day, you're supposed to take care of your gums and your tongue and your teeth as slowly when they start coming.
So what is your take on these natural methods that have been used for kids, I mean, below 2 years of age? Will it have a long term effect, or do you think it doesn't make any difference?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's nothing naturally that can help, you know.
So, I mean, that's the bottom line is basically brushing has to start
Yeah.
once the child starts getting to. The other question that I had is, a lot of mothers have this query where they say कि दांत नहीं आए तो खाना नहीं खा सकते. Secondly, what happens is lot of other people say कि when the baby will chew, there's another opinion which says when the baby will chew, then
The
teeth will
teeth will
automatically
come.
come.
Right,
So what is the actual thing? I mean, a lot of bichare, lot of babies are still till 2 years. Also, we see even in my son is just 2 years old, but in his school also, most of them are fed khichdi only because they're still having the
Yeah.
tooth that are still coming. So probably that's more of a genetic kind of thing that all kids might not get all teeth by 2 years, and some kids might get all teeth by 2 years. But still, I wanted to know what's the myth and what's the reality. I mean, if you have to introduce solids at the age of at say 5.5 or 6, is it say irrespective of the fact that teeth have come or not, is it safe to give let them chew on carrots? Is it safe to let them chew on certain things? Does the chewing part help?
So, in my opinion, the gums help as much as the teeth to, chew. So even if your child, like my son, he got his first tooth when he was 11 months old. But we definitely did introduce a lot of carrots. We introduced rotis at 8 months.
Okay.
So I don't think that a tooth is the only thing that will help you to chew. Your gums also, they just get used to it. They want to put things in the mouth. They can eat with their gums also. So I think it is very important for mothers nowadays that you should introduce
So
everything.
they can eat through the gums
Yes,
also.
they definitely can eat through the gums also. So you should introduce post 8 months. You should introduce rotis. You should introduce like, finger food. So I think they will eventually just learn how to chew, even if they don't have teeth. So I don't think that we should be in that generation where we are only mashing food and giving to the
Right,
children,
right, right, right.
because at the end of it, it's not going to help the child only.
So let's do a quick rapid fire to understand baby's oral hygiene. So what is the correct braces timing?
So when the child turns around 7 years old, they have both the kind of teeth in their mouth. They have some baby teeth, and some of the permanent teeth have just started to come. So I think that is the right age to go to a braces specialist, that is an orthodontist, wherein they can evaluate the crowding, the growth pattern in your jaw. So I think everyone should take their children to an orthodontist post 7 years of age. And sometimes when the parents realize that maybe there are some crooked teeth in the mouth, or there's an open bite, or the patient is thumb sucking, like, so that would be a better thing to do, to get it evaluated by a specialist
After 7 years.
after 7 years.
And electric toothbrush is recommended or not recommended for the kids?
So you can use an electric toothbrush, but you just have to make sure that the child turns 3, and then you introduce an electric toothbrush, and always you have to monitor, because anything that will help your child to enhance their oral health is fine. Like, you can, because sometimes they get fascinated with the electric toothbrush, they want to brush their teeth. So there is no harm in introducing it, but post 3 years of
Post
age.
3 years. And brushing assistance till what age should parents be doing?
Yeah, that is something which a lot of parents should know, that they should assist or they should brush for their child till the child doesn't turn 8, because their motor skills are not developed to brush. They don't have that manual dexterity to brush their teeth. So either they stand and help them brushing, or at least monitor them till they are 8 years of age, that they are brushing in all the surfaces.
Okay. Should we have toothbrush replacement for babies?
Yeah, so just like adults, like, every 3 months, it is recommended. Or when you see that the toothbrush is fraying away, you see those bristles are like frayed, that is fine, or you can get it replaced. Or see, if you or your child has any kind of illness related to your throat or your, like, respiratory system, it is always advisable that you change your toothbrush, because those bacteria are there. So once you are fine from that illness, you should throw it away and get a new one.
And first dental visit at what age?
So ideally speaking, it is when your child gets their first tooth or on their first birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should visit probably once they turn 1 year old. You can just go for a normal checkup for the growth of the jaws.
Do kids below 3 years of age, can they also have tooth decays?
Yes, definitely, they do have.
That is it has to do something with brushing, or is it genetic, or is it more sugar intake?
I think sugar is not the only thing that causes it. But yeah, like the kind of food we eat, we always recommend the children, if they're having any kind of sweets, you have it with your meal, because then if you're just having it as a snack, it's going to get stuck in your teeth. But if you have it with your meal, that kind of chewing action of your roti and rice, it just removes that stickiness that is gotten stuck in the mouth.
Okay.
So it's always advised that you have your sweets with a meal. And kids are having nowadays, having those sugary drinks and stuff. Whatever you're having, I mean, we would not recommend that children have that, but if you're giving your child anything like that, make sure that the child just gargles the mouth once every time they have a drink like that, or just have water above the snacks or the sugary drinks they are having. But yeah, also brushing, the technique of brushing should be right when they're doing it. It is very important to
So
so
when we were small, we were told, we were used to be told always that मीठा खाओगे तो दांत खराब हो जाएंगे. So is it only meetha,
it's
or is it just
not.
it's all about oral hygiene?
It's all about oral hygiene, because it's not, there's going to be some other food also getting stuck in your mouth, which is not getting cleaned and giving you decay. It's not just sugar. Sugar is just a myth.
Right, that's what I wanted
So
to
if
ask.
you're not going to clean, and things are going to get stuck in between your teeth, and there's going to
Anyways,
be
it's going to
plaque,
clean.
and then there's going to be cavities, so you are going to have these kind of issues. So
Right.
I don't think we should blame sugar, but we should blame ourselves and our parents, like, that they are not teaching us how to brush. And so I feel what parents should do nowadays is that they should brush in front of their children in the morning and in the night. See, when you're just telling your child you have to brush, but why are you not doing it in front of the child? If you do it, they are going to follow what you do. So you brush at night, and then they will also follow that.
So basically follow routine with them,
Yes,
and
exactly.
for I mean they would probably follow you, and
Yes,
it would be a kind
because
of
it's
a.
always that we are running after them, that okay, brush, 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 but if you do it, they will automatically want to do it.
There was also this debate because I got my son put fluoride on his tooth, and doctor said it will work for 6 months. Because he has a slight bent in like a small, probably I don't know what, something gets stuck. So she put fluoride for him. Now, lot of other doctors or some other people whom I met, they said he's too small. They should not do it. This must be around 6 months before, when he must be 1.5 or 1 month, 1 year, 8 months. So a lot of other people said नहीं fluoride अच्छा नहीं होता है, direct लगाना, it's not good. So is it recommended in your dental checkups for kids, and is it safe?
Yeah, fluorides are quite safe. Like, we recommend it, school going children and or everyone around 2 to 3 years after that. You should do a fluoride application for your kids.
Right. So, with this rapid fire ending, we'll go to our next section, which is a very I've made this section up because it's always been there in my mind, and I have a huge trauma with it. It's the chip tooth section. Now, I have an history with chip tooth because I had a chip tooth at the age of 8 years, and post that, like, usually there's so much awareness about so many things right now, but probably my parents didn't think that chip tooth makes such a big difference, and neither did I when I grew up. I mean, I think I grew up, uh, I went to college, I got married, I had a kid, everything with the chip tooth. Half life went with the chip tooth, and all major photos are with one break in the between. Now, the thing is that after so many years, I went to a dentist and she explained me in detail. It's a dead tooth. It's coming down. It's going to kill the nerves. It's going to affect the other tooth and all of that. So now the trauma increased because my son had a fall, and he also has a small chipped off tooth. So the trauma hit me so badly that when it happened, I was not at home. I was in the office, but later on, I saw in somewhere in the market where there was too much light. I had gone to an optician's shop, and I saw that my son opened his mouth, so I saw his tooth is half. So luckily, where I stay, we have a pediatric dentist. I ran to that place because I was so traumatized with that thing. But now my question comes here because I was consoled by she telling me that this is very common in kids. I mean, she also told me if I show you photographs of kids who come to me, probably you will fall down here. So, I want to know that is there some kind of a first aid, and some funny things happened when I was running or I was going to the dentist. Someone met me and said, "अरे पहले घर जाके वो दांत ढूंढो, तो वो गम से चिपका देंगे."
Yeah.
तो in my case वो दांत ढूंढने का टाइम नहीं था because falling must be some 4 hours after. Later I came to know about it. So so does that happen? Secondly, there's also another case that has happened in near fraternity in our friend circle, where the child fell down. She had a chipped tooth at the age of 4, but later on, the permanent tooth that is coming is kind of is not proper. I mean, it has a lot of decay. It's coming black, and now she's going through a lot of root canals. So what? How important should it be to treat these chipped tooths? It can be possible to treat it for this kind of babies falling at the age of 2, 3, 4. So what's your how would you treat it? What would be your recommendation as a dentist?
Yeah. So what happens is that when there's a chipped tooth, you have to make sure, because the child has fallen, there could be chances of a vertical horizontal fracture. So always advisable that you go to a pediatric dentist or a normal dentist to check what has exactly happened, because you actually don't know what is happening inside.
Right.
There could be traumatic injury inside.
Okay.
From outside it's just a slant, chipped tooth, but there could be something happening inside. So always advisable to visit a dentist, get an x-ray done. Patient has any pain, sensitivity, or maybe sometimes the tooth has become little bit loose. So you have to make sure that we stabilize the tooth from the back, so that you don't lose that tooth. Sometimes what happens is that entire tooth comes out. So in that scenario, you have to run to the dentist, wherein there could be a possibility that they can put it back. But that's when the entire tooth has come out, not when a small portion of the tooth has broken. So these two are two different things that you face. Probably someone thought the entire tooth came out, so they're like, "Okay, go and find it."
Right.
But that small chip that can be restored with a filling.
Do these kind of kids really actually get this dental treatment done? I mean, those kids who have, I mean, how, I just want to know from you as a dentist, how difficult or easy it is to work with them.
So frankly speaking, what I have seen is that nowadays what parents are doing is that they just want to scare the child with the name of a dentist or a doctor. They'll give you injection, they'll give you injection in the mouth if you don't brush your teeth. So I think this should stop, because this creates an anxiety for the kids, which is not good at all.
But
you
what to do? They don't listen to anything else, no?
but then there are so many other things that you can but definitely we should stop doing that to our kids, because eventually if they have to go to the dentist, they are going to be anxious.
Right.
And if a parent is anxious, it also passes on to the children. So I think we have to be strong enough to take them along. If we have to do something, we can take them along. Okay, I'm just going for a checkup, doctor will see my teeth, the doctor will clean my teeth, because it is important. When you talk to your children like that, we don't create that fear in them. But if you're going to constantly tell them, you brush your teeth, otherwise I'll take you to the dentist, they'll give you an injection, or this auntie is a dentist, she's going to give you an injection, they are going to be scared and they don't want to walk into the clinic. They're going to be always scared, and getting an injection in the mouth at that age, it's not easy.
It's not
It's not easy
easy
at
at
any
any
age,
age.
but especially for the kids, it's not easy at all. I mean, for us, it's like, okay, it's just a small injection, but for them, it's not. It's something very big.
Big. Right.
And then the kind of feeling that you get when it's becoming numb, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't want my child to go through that.
We go to our next segment, which is green flag, red flag, where I'll ask you some questions. In contradiction to that, I'll ask you some questions. So, how do you ensure your patients feel comfortable and informed through the session? I mean, apart from the fact that you would be writing this down or taking a form filling session, uh, how do you personally ensure that they know what's happening? Because I understand that dentists have two ways to it. I mean, first is that they would think that they would treat a patient psychologically and maybe not tell them what's happening next, क्या होने वाला है. So what is in your approach is the right approach? This is, I'm just talking generalistically, what should be the right approach?
So when the patient comes, you see some decay in the patient's mouth, but then patient has no pain or anything. But it's very important that you show them through the camera, or then you take an X-ray. You show them that this is the nerve, this is where the decay is, because a lot of times it happens that the decay has reached the nerve, but there is no sensation that the patient is feeling. So they feel pain nahi hai, to humko treatment nahi karwana hai. So it is very important that we do this pre-operative findings with the patient. You tap the tooth, you take an X-ray, you have a intraoral camera, you show it that there's a decay inside the mouth with the camera. So you have to make sure that you show them what you're planning for them. If they have any missing teeth, you make models. If you want to straighten some teeth, you show them a wax up, like a artificial thing, that this is how your teeth are going to look. So it's very important that you spend that much amount of time with the patient, and you make them understand and make them feel comfortable, that okay, this is what you're planning to do, why is this important, why is the root canal important, why is the extraction important.
So, the red flag question in this is, what happens if some patient feels that yes, is their concerns are not addressed? So, like probably they might just get anxious, start crying, or maybe someone might just start shouting and howling. So, how do you, as a even as a dentist, your technical work is aside. I mean, I understand this is also part. How do you handle such kind of patients?
I mean, I feel it's very important to be calm yourself. You know that you are doing the right thing. So you just have to make sure that you explain to them. I know there are a lot of patients who are quite anxious who come. They say they don't want to do it, even though they have reached a point where there is no other way out.
Right.
But they don't want to, like, do the treatments and stuff. They feel that they are right, and the dentist is not right. But I think it's just like, you have to keep your cool. And yeah, I mean, every individual is different, so you have to take each patient differently.
Have you had any experience where some patient has fainted on your table, or probably acted or something like that?
Not in my private practice, but definitely during our college days. We had experience of a lot of patients who would come and who wouldn't give the history properly, who would, like, probably someone would have a drink and come, would not tell you. So yeah, we had that. But yeah, definitely not in my private practice. But during college times, we had all these kind of funny things happening around. Yeah.
How do you incorporate the latest technology in your practice?
Yeah, so basically we have lot of these clinical educational CDE dental educational programs that keep coming to your city, like, so whatever comes in, like digital dentistry is progressing now. So you have conferences that you should attend, and then get upgrade your clinic also according to what the trends are now. Then you attend these dental shows wherein they sell the new marketing stuff. They sell the materials that are newer in the market. That's how you would meet a lot of other dentists, and then discussions happen. So yeah, that is also very important. And then we have some WhatsApp groups also wherein we keep discussing our cases and stuff. So
So I have had this one experience in my life where I had gone to a very small city somewhere in North India, and someone just told me ये अच्छा नहीं दिखता है, तो चलो एक हम मेरी फ्रेंड है एक डेंटिस्ट, आई विल गो एंड शो यू देयर. So I went there. So that lady had just opened her clinic, and then she told me कि ये टूट गया है लेकिन ये सारा प्रॉब्लम है. तो आई सेड क्या प्रॉब्लम है? सो शी सेड एक्सरे लेते हैं. सो आई इवन डिड द एक्सरे एट हर क्लिनिक, एंड देन शी सेड ये पूरा निकालना पड़ेगा बाहर, जबड़ा. एंड आई सेड तो निकाल के वापस कैसे आएगा? सो शी सेड चला जाएगा, हम बिठा देंगे वापस. सो बाहर निकालेंगे, हम दांत बिठाएंगे और फिर से जबड़ा को अंदर रख देंगे. सो the next moment I got up from that chair and I ran out of that clinic, because I thought iske baad if I sit here, I think she will just open my mouth and I will never be able to talk and eat. So my question is that only, that do you have some experience like this? And otherwise, what happens if you go to some like in, I think because of this the cost effectiveness, it happens a lot of time that people go to dentists who are slightly cheaper or whatever, and then lot of things happen. So have you come across any experience like this, or does it happen? How important it is for dentists to be updated in their own respective fields, whether it is pediatric, whether it is ortho. So how important is it?
yeah, so I feel that if you are very confident that you know how to do a particular thing, you should do it. But if you feel that I am not confident in doing this particular thing, dentistry is so vast and there are so many specializations that you can call a specialist doctor to your clinic to get this particular treatment done for your patient. So you don't have to be like, I want to do everything. There has to be a line, like, probably I am not good at removing wisdom teeth, so I know I can call a specialist surgeon who can do it for me. So I rather make the patient also happy and comfortable, and myself also. And also, I don't want to obviously spoil my name that this doctor could not remove the tooth or something like that. So um, should be a line where what you like to do, what you know how to do, and then how much can you do.
Do you tailor your treatment to fit the needs of the patient or as per how the patient is behaving?
Yeah, so there are a lot of times when patients come in saying that, I cannot afford this particular treatment. Like, I have a missing tooth, but I cannot afford it. So we have to, like, firstly address what is the problem, treat the problem first. Even though we see that there are a lot of other things in the mouth that need the treatment, we have to advise them that okay, this is what is required, but then at the end of it, it is on them whether they want to get that treatment done or no. If he's coming in and saying I have a toothache, I want to get a root canal done, but I see that his gums are not healthy, I will advise him that please can you also get a cleaning done,
Right.
can you get your gums a little bit healthier, they're not looking that great. But then it is on the patient eventually, because if he is not going to be able to afford that, then I have to cater to his needs.
Correct.
So that happens a lot of times, but we do keep reminding by giving calls to the
So basically,
patient.
the add-ons which you would suggest to patients is not always because it's like an add-on or probably just to make commercials out of it.
No,
It's
yeah,
also
it's
because,
also because like there are times when patients don't require a cleaning.
right,
So we would like, okay, you can come after a 6 months more, and then we can, do
do
your
it.
cleaning. Or, this tooth definitely requires a filling, but maybe if you feel that you cannot afford it at this point of time, maybe you can come within 2 months and get it done. We will remind you,
Right.
that kind of thing.
There was this controversy in between about one size fits all kind of a thing. So what is your take on that? So there was this brand that is currently selling and making a lot of aligners available to common public, and there's a lot of talk happening about it, whether to go for it or whether not to go for it. But what is does it work? One size fits all works for
So what I feel is that it obviously this is not going to work, and you have to go with certified brands. And I think dentists would know better, like which brand is the best in the market. So
so in short, basically without a dentist consultation, it's
not
kind of not right to
not
put anything on your tooth.
not at all. And in fact, in these situations where it's related to Invisalign or
Braces,
retainers,
yeah,
braces, aligners, then you should definitely have an orthodontist on board, a braces specialist. It's
right.
not even the normal dentist also is not certified to do your treatment. They have to get their certification in that field, and then they can perform your treatment.
So our next segment is about your journey, about customer feedback and customer stories. So I wanted to know anything, any customer story that you recollect and that has changed, shaped your career, or probably been there with you since your particularly your 12 years of your practice.
So I believe that only if you make small mistakes, you're going to learn from it. Because what happens is that those memories are going to always remain in your mind. So when you're always working on any patient, you always have that fear that I don't want to make that mistake again. So it's not about mistakes, but there are patients who could be unhappy with your work, some of them would be happy with your work. So I think we should just take it in the stride and be happy about whatever feedback we get. And also for me, there was a situation when I had not informed one of my patients to have their lunch and come before a whitening session, and then I restricted them, saying that you cannot have healthy food, you cannot have wine, you cannot have these kind
Stained
of
food,
colored
basically stained.
stained
Yeah.
foods. Yeah. And she was quite disappointed because I had not informed her prior. So I obviously, after that, I have been very particular. Like I took that particular situation positively, that now every time any patient comes, before my patient comes, I inform my patient about everything, like treatment related, post operative, what care has to be taken, what has like pre op, they should have their lunch, dinner, whatever, and come. what they can have post surgery or post whitening session. So I took that particular thing very, very positively, and I think it has worked for me.
Right.
So I think it's very important, like, that if patients give you a feedback, you should be able to accept that maybe they might be right also.
Dentists also can, somewhere or the other, there is always what you say, you can always give them a benefit of doubt,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
And because this is on this video would be seen by a lot of people who are still learning, maybe they are aspirants, maybe they are already practicing, maybe like you said, they're interns. So because you have practiced almost for 12 years, what kind of suggestion, or what kind of what do you want to say to those people, or what could happen with them in the next 12 years, or how could this industry evolve all the more? What's your take on that?
I think the most important thing is that you shadow the correct people, and you make sure that you know your strengths and your weaknesses, because therein you, if you feel that you are not confident of some particular thing, you can do some courses, you can do your masters in that particular subject. Because this is how I decided I want to do masters in this subject, is because I was not good in it, and I had taken it on me that now I want to make sure that I am the best at it. So there was this thing in prosto I used to not like doing at all, and people used to always think that I am not never going to be able to touch that. But I just took it in my stride, and I'm like, I want to be like master in this, and that's why I decided I want to do. So it's not always necessary that you would do masters in something which you love doing. You can do masters in something which you hate doing, because you want to really madly want to learn that. Like, why am I not being able to do this? So let me just do masters in that, so that I am becoming a master of that. Because you always hear that, oh, I love this subject, so I'm going to do my masters in that, or I'm going to study further in this particular thing. But I decided that if I anyways love it so much, I obviously know how to do it, so I'd rather learn something else and excel in that.
Right.
So this is my advice to, people who are learning dentistry now.
What are your daily joys out of uh, everything that you do with such a difficult? I mean, as a dentist, I understand days would be really difficult. I mean, some days would be really very, very, very taxing, mentally taxing. So, how uh, how do you tackle this? How do you tackle yourself mentally? How do you try to motivate yourself, that yes, I, even though it's bad probably, but I will still go back.
So every time a patient walks into your clinic, it's not necessary that they are going to pay 50,000 for their treatment. But somehow, every time anyone comes, you just like feel that, okay, I can help this person. And it's really not about money. It's just about how much you can help somebody, because there are a lot of patients who come and say, okay, we don't have the kind of money to pay, so can we pay in installments? And I'm always ready to help them, because I just feel that nowadays it's very difficult to find doctors or dentists who are not just doing this for money, but just for their happiness. So I think I come from that kind of category, wherein I'm okay to earn a little bit lesser, but I would definitely want to see that, my patients on their recall appointments, and say, okay, okay, I'm doing fine now. Like, yeah, my pain is not there. Okay. So that's what gives you want to go back there again and again. Even though there are times you have rough days, but still that small little thing that, okay, the patient is fine and like has no problem now, definitely is one of the reasons I want to go back. And since you love the subject so much, it's like it gives you a little break from your daily routine and your daily housework and your children. So you definitely want to go back to the things you love to do. So yeah, that's about it.
I had a great time talking with you about something that is considered so little and such an ignored part of our body, probably our teeth and the hygiene and the oral care. So it's been great. It's been a great podcast. and so many insights that we have got from you. And I hope you enjoyed
Yes,
sharing your
definitely. Yes.
information with, and whatever are your experiences with us. So I wish you all the best,
Thank
and
you
thank
so
you for
much.
coming on our
Thank
podcast.